Welcome to Machine Learning Lesson 2.5. Up to now, we've kind of learned about how to extract information, view the information, and clean our data. But it may be beneficial for us to be able to add new data to an existing data set. And that's what this video is all about. So let's get to it. So in this video, we're going to be using the cars data set. And if you recall, this is the one that has the prices, the model, the mileage, VIN number, and the state. So let's say for some reason these were cars that were up for sale. So we wanted to be able to add a column that simply stated that they were all available. So we can easily add a column to our data set by specifying the new name of the column. So let's do df available, and let's set it equal to true. And let's go ahead and print out our data set. So we can see here that we've now added a column called available, and we've set everything equal to true. Pretty cool, right? All right, so what else can we do? And this is what I would call a simple constant type value. But what if we wanted something a little more complex? For instance, what if we wanted to add a column that calculated the tax for every car? So we can do that by, again, doing df. Let's add the name of the new column called tax. And the tax will be based off of the price. And let's say 0.0875. And again, let's do df. All right, so what we see here is that by simply doing this, let's find a new column based off another column, just like we saw in the other one. It does it for every single row. I mean, that's very convenient. I mean, typically in other programs where we've had to go through a data set, you would have to use a for loop to kind of go through every data set and then make that calculation. Here you don't have to do that. Here you simply specify that this new column is based off of this column multiplied by that constant, by that particular other value. And you can see here the tax is based off, it's different for every car because the price is different for every car. All right, so this is what I call a computed value. Now in some instances, you need to do a little more logic than that. So for that, we have to introduce the idea of a function. So if you recall from Python, to do a function, you do def, give it a name, possibly some parameters. In this case, it will have to be a parameter. And let's create a function that simply returns everything uppercase. So we'll say s upper. So this will take some value, make it upper, and return that value. And let's use that on, let's say, the colors. Let's say we want all the colors to be uppercase. So let's do df. Now in this case, we're not creating a new column. We could have, but we're not. We're going to use the same column name of color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do df color dot apply. So we're going to apply a function to everything that's in here. So it still kind of works the same way as the other values that we've computed so far, except that it's going to be on an existing column. So we're going to apply some function to that. So what's the function we're going to apply? Let's apply the toUpper function, this function, to every element in here. And let's print out df. Okay, so you can see here all the colors are capitalized. So you might be tempted to say, well, why couldn't I just do s.upper? Okay, again, you might say, well, upper is a function. You're right, it is a function. But what needs to be passed to the apply is a function of this format, not a function based off of a particular value. All right, so this will not work. So this happens common. The idea of applying a function to all the elements in a particular column. Sometimes it might become a little annoying to have to create a separate function just to do a simple manipulation of the data. If that is the case, if that's what you're looking to try to do, just a simple manipulation of each element in a particular column, well, we can do something called the lambda function. And let me show you how that works. So let's do the same idea of capitalizing things. But now let's do it to, let's say, state. Let's make all the states capital. So we still got the same format of df state equals df state with the apply. So again, the applied function is useful if you want to manipulate the values in a particular column. Not necessarily create a new one, but just manipulate the values in the column. So you already saw we could create a separate function, or we can do something called a lambda. A lambda is a function. So if you kind of want to think of this as the word def from up top, you could. Except that you're not going to provide a name to the function. You're simply going to state that here's a function, here's the parameter it's going to take, put a colon, and now you simply write the process that you want. So you can do s dot upper. So essentially the code's the same. I mean, you can't get away from this part. This is what you're going to end up doing, which is the take each element and make it upper. But the way in which we did it is different. This is called a lambda function. It's meant to be used in this way. Again, I'm not making this into a full tutorial. If you want to read more up on how to write lambda functions, you can. But let me prove to you that this does work as well. Okay, and you can see here all the states are capitalized. So it really ends up coming down to you which format you want to use, whether you want to do a function and then pass that function, or do a lambda. I will say that if your process involves quite a bit of logic, like maybe some if statements in there, maybe some string manipulation, then it might be easier for a person to read it if the function is defined separately. Again, if it has a lot of logic to it. But if it's something that's simple, straightforward, then you could definitely use a lambda function. And I would almost say that this would be the more readable method of providing a simple transformation of the data using the apply function. Now, going back to what many of you are more comfortable with is, what if I simply wanted to do a for loop to go through everything? So I want to show you that. I would definitely not recommend this because of the fact that, Pandas has this apply function. But if you want to go old school, we can. And let me show you how that's done. So let's say for index in range 2499, because that's how many things we have. And now what we can do, let's say results equals df dot loc. So we're going to use our old friend loc from, I believe, video machine learning lesson 2.2. So we're going to use a slightly different version of it. We typically used iloc to specify a row. Loc is going to let us specify a row and a column. So let's say we want to make all the brand names capitalized. So loc lets us specify, again, let me say it again, lets us specify a row and a column that we want to investigate. So let's take the brand that's at this row and make it upper. We'll store it in results. And then let's go back and do the same thing of loc. And let's simply put it back in. So index brand equals result. Now I split the statement up just to make it a little more readable, so you kind of can get the grasp of this. So we took the existing value, we made it uppercase, we stored in results, and now we're simply taking the result and sticking it back in that same location. And let's go ahead and do df again. Taking a little longer than normal. So that might be another selling point right there. Notice how it definitely took longer to do it using the for loop. I'm not sure if that's just a coincidence, but again, this was not the preferred method. You definitely want to kind of do it this way or do it this way. This is the more pandas way of doing it, or this way. Again, this is more of the traditional. I'm not comfortable with pandas, but I know how to use programming to manipulate information, and that's this approach. But as you can see, any of these three approaches will work if you want to manipulate data that's in a particular column. So let's go back to our presentation. And the goal of this lesson was to show you how you can introduce new data, whether it's a fixed value or computed value, such as the tax, or something a little more complicated, such as making every element within a column uppercase. Again, notice that that example did not involve creating a new column. It simply updated the values in a column. We showed you how to use a Lambda function, which is very convenient instead of creating a whole separate other function. Just as a side note, Lambda functions kind of act like anonymous functions from other languages. Again, if you're more interested in it, you could definitely read up on it. So hopefully you feel good about being able to not only search for information, but add new information to your data sets. Enjoy.